How big was the pressure? I mean, we know, we've all dug through the torch and the Observer and the archives and seen what the talking heads in wrestling were saying. How bad was the heat from mainstream media because of this storyline, as best you can recall?
Brutal. People just didn't look, they didn't understand it, they didn't like it. And especially for mainstream media who didn't follow it, they didn't get it was just so easy to critique, and you can't argue with them looking at it as though we're in bad taste.
Do you think, and I know that this is silly, but do you think with the benefit of hindsight, this hurt Hulk Hogan in the mainstream? Hurt his credibility? I mean, he was so hot for so long, and then to be in this storyline, I'm wondering if it hurt at all, in your opinion.
No, I mean, I think that time has shown us that people forgive.
Yeah.
People forgive and move on. And maybe in the time, those that wanted to have something to cling on to hate Hulk Hogan had this. And those that loved Hulk were always going to love Hulk.
The reason I ask is I think we all sort of want to hold Vince accountable for this. And we say, man, why wouldn't he just change? Like, it would have been easy to pivot. And I'm
Change
sure
what?
I'm saying in terms of this Iraqi angle, like we could have come up with something else for Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania.
I mean, that's easy to say, when you're not involved and it's not your company and you have as much invested in it as we did. And it was a gamble. It was a roll of the dice, without a doubt. But, I love it when people say, oh, it's so easy to just do something else. Okay.
Well, Bruce, you changed the building. I mean, you were going to sell 100,000
Sure,
tickets. People shit on it, so you went to the arena. But I'm just saying,
no. See, again,
I know there were security concerns. I get it.
Not concerns. There was actual real. They did the Super Bowl. They secured it. The LA Coliseum doesn't have a outside perimeter to keep people out, like around the stadium itself. Government wasn't going to pay for that. For us to do that. And ticket sales were the shits. I'm not denying that at all. Ticket sales were the drizzling shits. And we had it at that point, to make that decision, the arena with the amount of tickets would be sold out.
Right.
Just move it. Just fucking move it. Take away the negative bullshit. Don't even try to fucking, spend the $400,000 or whatever it's going to cost to secure the thing. Move. Pivot. Make that decision. But the attraction was the attraction. And
that's
good, bad, or indifferent. Some people liked it. Some people didn't. That's with every attraction. So we went with it.
The narrative we've heard about Vince for a long time, people who don't know him, people who just read things and hear things like we wrestling fans online do, is that when Vince has his mind made up on something, boy, that's it. And there's going to be almost no talking him out of it. That's where I was getting to a minute ago, where it does feel like if you've got people in the office who are saying, oh, maybe you ought to cool it on this. And it seems like there's a ton of bad press. I mean, you just said it was brutal. And now we know ticket sales aren't moving. It seems like almost all common sense would point to, hey, we should just pivot here. But we know that, saying damn the torpedoes is what made Vince successful in the first place. So he goes with his gut and just continues to see the vision. And I get all that. Where I was getting to with Hulk Hogan a minute ago, though, was, isn't he really maybe the only person who could have changed Vince's mind? Because if he says, man, I'm not doing this, I mean, we'd have to come up with something at that point, right?
Hey, man, again, when you're in it and you're making decisions, you're looking at, okay, what is an alternate attraction? We didn't have it. We didn't have it in the book. We didn't have it. So we go with the attraction we've been building for all this time, and felt that was the strongest attraction that we had. Hulk winning the title from Sarge. You were already there. Anything else you do would have been so much less than. You didn't have your pay-per-view in the middle of Royal Rumble and WrestleMania to do it. You're there. So, yeah, sure, we could have. It would have been less than it was. And nobody wanted to do that and felt that, okay, you know what? They'll forgive us once Hulk wins the title. And then we move on. And this is the sacrifice we make now to move the title to Hulk and move on.
We should also talk about the extended family. That's not even all that extended. There was a quote from Sergeant Slaughter's father, Rudy, who's 74 at the time, and he says, "I'm
Rudy
worried for us.
Remus.
We're in a war. Sure, this is a show, but people are going to get mad. The guys I bowl with say, Rudy, if Bob doesn't watch it, someone's going to shoot him. Bob's played the bad guy, but he's never been a bad guy. What about all those kids that looked up to him and thought he was G.I. Joe? Those kids loved him. How can they possibly look at the TV and understand this?" That is something that I really hadn't considered in all this, that he did have a lot of brand equity with the youth of America. He still does. He's still making appearances with that G.I. Joe patch on his jacket. I mean, he's still, you know, doing
He will
well.
forever be Sergeant Slaughter.
Yes. But in this moment, it does feel like, boy, he's kind of throwing all that he's done with G.I. Joe away because he's banding with the bad guys. But I know it's entertainment and all that jazz. But to see, like, even his dad, who certainly knows what wrestling is, having concerns, he's got a lot of pressure coming from every direction too. Does he know it?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, think of his family. Look, his family, we had to have 24-hour security at his home for his family, for his wife and daughter, because there were people that were making threats against his family and against his home. So that was real life, and those were things that were actually happening. We had security with him 24 hours a day for him and Adnan. It was a terrible time, and what you just read there was a father who's worried about his son. That's just, you know, real life, that he's like, oh God, man, you know, you've gone too far. This is, I don't want my son to be hated. I don't want my son to be hated to the point where the people that don't get it want to harm him. And I get it. I understand that coming from a father, and how he's looking at that and going, son, please. So, you know, there's the fucked upness of those of us in this business sometimes, that the business consumes your life, and the truly great heels, and I still think that to this day, if you are a heel, then you enjoy being hated. You enjoy, you know, a true heel. Now, I don't know that there are any true heels left, or that the audience views anybody as a true, really evil heel. But at that time, they did. And those of us that were heels, we enjoyed being hated. I lived to be hated. I wanted you to hate me. I did everything I could to get you to hate me. And I lived it, and I breathed it, and I relished in it. Sergeant Slaughter was the same exact way. He loved it. He wanted more heat. He wanted all of that. It took its toll on his family. But yet the desire to be the most hated man in the world, that consumed him. And he was willing to risk and sacrifice all of those things. I think if Sarge had it to do all over again, I think he'd do it exactly the same way, and do every single bit of it with no hesitation whatsoever. It's just, unless you've lived it, you can't understand it. And when you try to explain it and put it into words like I just did, those that have never experienced it, never had that desire or that passion for something, just go, well, that's stupid. Great, whatever you think. But those of us that have lived it and wanted to portray a character, even if that character was yourself, to the point where I want everybody to hate me. Call it a sickness, call it whatever you want. That was the desire. That was the understanding. That's why we did what we did. That's why Sarge did what he did.